Greetings. It's been a while since we've talked face-to-face like this. Most of you should know by now that there is a paper that is due at the end of the week. For those of you that check your email or check the site regularly, you'll know that I pushed that due date back from Thursday to Saturday. Anyway, what I'd like to do in a multiple-part video segment is work with you, help you think about what we've got going for paper one, because paper one is worth 10% of your cumulative grade, so it is a very big assignment in the grand scheme of things. What you should do, if you've not already done so, is go on to eCampus, log on to the site website, and I want you to print out the guidelines for paper one, and you can get a copy of these by going into the week 8 folder, opening up the assignment folder, and there should be something that says paper one guidelines. So if you haven't already done so, put me on pause and print that out, and we're going to come back and go over it together. Okay, if you've got a copy of the guidelines in front of you, I'm going to go through it pretty much line by line. You should be pretty close to finishing Frederick Douglass's My Bondage and My Freedom at this point. What I'm asking you in that question there is, how can Douglass make a really, really radical statement that he makes in that autobiography? Slavery is an institution that victimizes everybody. That's what Douglass is trying to tell us in that book, that slavery victimizes slaves, but it also victimizes slave owners. It also victimizes people that were white but did not own slaves. I need you, through an integration of the source material in the course, in other words, your videos and your reading, combine that with what Douglass has to say in My Bondage and My Freedom, and that's going to be the essence of this paper one question. Now, the first thing I need you to understand is that this is an argumentative paper, which means that you need a thesis statement. Now, just so we're clear on what a thesis statement is, it's an argument. It's an original, unique opinion on a question, such as the one that you have in front of you. It's not factually based. You can't say that Frederick Douglass was a former slave and expect to call that an argument, because it's an accepted fact. What I'm asking you to do is to explain why you believe or you do not believe that Frederick Douglass was legitimate when he claimed that slavery was an institution that victimized everyone. Now, I'll give you some food for thought in a future video segment, but for right now, I need you to start thinking about whether or not you agree with that and why. Now, if you look down in the middle of the page, the first page of the guidelines, you'll see a section that's entitled DTA Readings That May Be Helpful in Writing This Paper. Those are readings in the online readings that I believe would be useful when it comes to considering this particular question. So what I'd like you to do, or it's not required, but I certainly believe it's helpful, take a look at those readings. None of them are very long. All of them speak directly to this central question, and all of them will help you write this paper. Okay? I've been good enough to actually list the page number that you can find them on, so you shouldn't have to hunt around for them very much. All right, let's go over the guidelines. This is toward the bottom of the page. First thing I want you to understand is you cannot plagiarize. Don't plagiarize. Write me an original paper. The reason that I'm giving you this forewarning is the area that you'll upload your paper for this assignment is designed to check for plagiarism. It is software that all Mountain View College professors have access to, and it searches the entire internet. There is literally nowhere to hide. So please be mindful of that when you're writing your papers. It's best to stick to the course material, because when you go to Wikipedia or you go to an online format, you run the risk of plagiarizing. Second bullet point. This is a paper that needs to be 2 to 3 pages double-spaced. And what I mean by 2 pages is that it starts up here and it ends down here. 2 full pages of double-spaced text. Okay? You need to have at least 2 and try very hard not to go over 3. 3 and a line or 3 and 2 sentences, that's acceptable. 10 pages is not. Now, I'd also like you to have a cover page that would be your first page of the paper. And on that cover page, what I want you to have is your name, paper 1, and your section number, which is 6402. 6402. Your cover page should come first, and at the beginning of page number 2, that's where you start. And you start right up here. So when I get your paper, it's 2 full pages. You will need to upload this paper in eCampus. All you do to do that is go to the Week 8 folder, click on Assignments, open up Paper 1, it's called a safe assignment, and uploading it is as simple as attaching a document to an email. It's pretty self-explanatory. If you do have problems, please don't hesitate to let me know. Everything that you type for me should be double-spaced, and it should be in 12-point font. Now, I don't necessarily care what type of font you use. If you're partial to Times New Roman, like I am, that's what I prefer. But if you want to use Arial or Calibri, that's fine too. The only thing I ask is that you don't use a really, really crazy font that will make my eyes go, that'll put a strain on them. Anyway, formatting is pretty straightforward. Double space everything, no larger or smaller than 12-point font, and use standard margins, default margins. If you fail to abide by these formatting guidelines, there will be a penalty, which is 2.5 points that will come off your final paper's grade. I need you to show me that you understand what a thesis statement is. So if you look at that third bullet point on page 2, your thesis needs to appear in bold lettering. I want you to embolden the thesis statement. Now, many of you may know this, but I've found that a lot of students don't understand where a thesis statement should appear in their paper. Your thesis statement needs to be in the opening paragraph. In other words, it needs to be in the introduction. And typically, a thesis statement will be the last sentence of the introduction. So you need an introduction where you open up and you tell the reader what you're going to talk about. And in that last sentence, that's where you're going to list your thesis statement. I've already mentioned this, but I want to reiterate it. No outside sources. Don't use Wikipedia. Try not to search Google. I mean, there's a difference between getting the ball rolling by doing a little bit of background checking and whatnot, and actually using internet sources to compose the heart and soul of your paper. Try not to use personal pronouns, I, me, you, things of that sort. I won't really get upset if you use a few here and there, but what I don't want you to do is use contractions. Don't, can't, won't, doesn't. Instead of doing that, spell it out. Cannot, will not, should not. There is a late paper policy in here. You can turn this paper in late, but understand that it will be penalized for doing so. For every day that a paper is late, remember this is due Saturday now, which is March 10th, at the end of the day, 11:59 p.m. For every day that it's late above and beyond Saturday, the paper's final grade goes down 2.5 points. So if you wait 4 days to turn it in, and by the way, weekends count, if you wait 4 days to turn it in, even if you write me a brilliant paper, it's not going to be worth anything. Okay? So please be mindful of that. Again, if you have specific problems that are going to prevent you from writing this paper, I need to know about it because right now I have options. Sunday, Monday, I don't. I always get this question, so I guess I'll take a second or two to address it. People always ask me, do we need to have quotes in our paper? The answer is, I don't care. If you're a really good writer and you can summarize things adequately, in other words, you can paraphrase what Frederick Douglass or the video or whatever it is that you're using as a source, then by all means do so. If you want to quote Frederick Douglass because you think it's really, really powerful in the way of evidence, then quote Frederick Douglass. What I would avoid, however, is stringing together massive, massive quotes. You don't want a quote taking up half a page because, after all, you only have 3 pages to tell me what you want to say. So please keep that in mind when it comes to writing this paper. Now, the last thing that I'm going to say is regarding the citation of sources in here. What I need you to do every time you're using an idea or a fact that's not your own original knowledge, in other words, you learned it in this class or you learned it from Frederick Douglass, you need to cite it. And the way that you're going to cite your sources is you're going to use a parenthetical approach. You're going to tell me something that Frederick Douglass or the video told you, either quote it or paraphrase it, and then in parentheses, you're going to write the author's name. So in the case of Douglass, Frederick Douglass, or just his last name, Douglass, 32. His name and the page number that you found it on. Close the parentheses, and at the end of the parentheses, that's where the period should come. Okay? Again, if you have specific questions on this, please let me know. If you're using material from the online readings, just write online readings and the page number you found it. If you're using information from the video, just Shaping America and the lesson that you found it, lesson 2, lesson 3, lesson 4. Okay? If you have specific questions, please don't hesitate to let me know. Read the guidelines thoroughly when you have a chance. I've gone over in like a minute or two the ways that you need to cite your sources, but if you read the guidelines, it's much, much more detailed, and I believe it's really going to help you in terms of doing the citations properly. All right, this is the end of the guidelines video. What I would do right now if I were you is I'd take a look at the next several videos, because what that's going to do is it's going to give you some food for thought and some ideas when it comes to writing this paper.